I do love a well-structured counter-argument in the comments on videos. And this particular one I've heard from a lot of people, so many that I probably can't attribute it or credit it to any one person. So this is often something that people will type in the comments section when you say that David Moyes has had a lot of backing this season. David Moyes has had 200 million. That when you suggest that he has been supported financially by the board, I think it's a way of throwing it back and saying, well, hold on a second, I don't think he has. And this train of thought suggests that David Moyes hasn't been fully supported by the board because he hasn't actually had any of his first choice players signed. Now, I don't believe that's strictly true, first of all. I don't believe there's none of them. I think Zuma was his first choice player, absolutely. I think Bowen was, and I'm absolutely sure that Gerd was. But aside from that, when we're actually appraising the £200 million spend up, which is basically this season, it's only really a Gerd. However, let's go back to last January, because last January, West Ham made bids for 3 people. Now, when I say last January, I mean January 2022, not the recent January just after the World Cup. Because this is where I want to take it back from, because I say it's not my argument, but I think it's a good one that's presented. Where would David Moyes be? Where would West Ham be if David Moyes had been allowed to sign his best players? And I think the suggestion is that the ones he's got are the second or third choices. So I think it's really interesting to go through them, actually. So if we just started with maybe Gianluca Scamacca. I've said on numerous occasions, Scamacca doesn't suit the team. He doesn't suit the way David Moyes wants to play. However, the 2 players that he highlighted before Scamacca most certainly did, 100%. Not the first one he went for, that's someone different. We'll go in reverse order. Armando Broja. Would West Ham have been different this season if they'd got Armando Broja? Now to do this, you've got to sort of play a little bit of, do a little bit of a fairy tale, a little bit of imagination. Imagine if we'd have signed Broja and we put in a good £30 million bid. If we'd have signed Broja, then he doesn't get injured. He only got injured because he remained at Chelsea. Maybe that injury doesn't happen at West Ham. You've got to do that to play a game. So had he have stayed fit, do I think this season Broja would have suited West Ham and brought more to the West Ham team than Scamacca did? Yes, because I just think he's better suited. I think he's better suited at pulling out wide. I think he's better suited running in behind. He's quicker. He's very, very fast. He's hard to handle. And I just think he would have been a better replacement for Mikel Antonio. We've done a better impression of Mikel Antonio. But Broja wasn't even David Moyes' first choice, because his first choice was Darwin Nunes. Now, we bid for Darwin Nunes and we bid £50 million for him. Benfica said no, they wanted 65. As I say, January 22. We didn't want to go to 65. So I think you can say, whilst it is true that the board have backed David Moyes with lots and lots of money, did they manage to get his number 1 striker target, Darwin Nunes? I guess the answer is no. Would West Ham have been better with Darwin Nunes? I think so. I mean, I really like him. I'm aware, as you know, that he hasn't maybe featured as much as he might have done for Liverpool. I'm aware that he's not as good or been as effective as Erling Haaland. I'm aware that actually Liverpool ended up paying £85 million for him, but I think he's effective wide. I think he's very fast. I think he's strong. And I think he would have been a hell of a player for West Ham. I think David Moyes spotted a good player there. He highlighted the player. He said to the board, look, there you go. Can I have that player? The board couldn't go and get him. Would West Ham have been a better team with him in? Yes. Would we have been a better team if we'd have signed him when we bid for him last January? Well, I've got to be honest with you. I think we might have won the Europa League, quite frankly. It might have made that much of a difference. Starting to fall down the side of David Moyes now. Again, I'm not going to do the disclaimer. I watched a video the other day with Gio having to do a load of disclaimers, and the reason he does it is because you say one thing and people say, oh, right, that's it, your Moyes in now, or your Moyes out now, oh, that's it, you love the owners now. I can't even be asked to do a bunch of disclaimers. Take from what I'm saying what you will. With Nunes, though, I think he would have done. Nunes wasn't the only person they bid for in that window. We made a double raid on Leeds. Unfortunately, it was unsuccessful double raid. First of all, Raphinha. Now, I don't know what we were going to do if we'd have signed Raphinha. And by the way, everyone confirmed it. Leeds confirmed it. You knew it had happened because even bloody Kalvin Phillips tweeted about it, didn't he? Fabrizio Romano, we had him on Hammer's Chat. We had Darmesh on Hammer's Chat. Basically, it was about as confirmed as you're ever going to get it as a West Ham fan without being in the room. And I've since had it confirmed by an agent, right, by the way. So I think that's pretty solid. We bid for Raphinha. I don't know what David Moyes would have done with Raphinha. I'm guessing he'd have played on left wing. Maybe he'd have converted him into a striker. Either one is up for... I think it's a fair assumption. Know what Moyes is like. But would the West Ham team be better with Raphinha? And yeah, of course it would have done. I mean, there's not even any doubt, is there? Would have been much better with him in. But we couldn't go and get him. The other one was Kalvin Phillips himself. 50 million. Now... would West Ham have been better? I mean, I'm not even going to sit and insult your intelligence by, saying, would Kalvin Phillips have improved West Ham? And would Kalvin Phillips next to Declan Rice have improved? Of course it would have done. Well, Gareth Southgate seems to like it anyway, doesn't he? Now, again, you've got to look at where we are. Has Kalvin Phillips been particularly successful at Manchester City? Not really. A lot of them don't do particularly well in their first season there. Has he had injuries? Yes. But he's always had injuries. Would he have improved West Ham? I think the answer is yes, absolutely. You start looking at that, and you think, well, hold on, that's unrealistic, isn't it? Raphinha, Kalvin Phillips, and Darwin Nunes. Well, we spent a lot of money. That I think there's one thing you can say, is the money was there. Clearly, we know that now. The money was there. Did he want to cut his cloth and get a few more for those players? But I think had they been brought in, I think it's fair to say that West Ham would have been better. And we got a couple more, actually. Excuse me, going a bit hoarse there. You know, I'm still a little bit hoarse from shouting at the first Alkmaar game, believe it or not. Then we got Amadou Onana. I don't want to judge him too much on what's happened at Everton, because I think everyone's crap at Everton. I don't particularly blame anyone. I don't even blame the managers at Everton. I just think Everton is a really weird club at the moment. I actually feel quite sorry for the fans, actually. I think we would have been better with Onana. Do I think Onana is a better option in central midfield than Thomas Souček? I do. I actually do. So you start looking at the composition of the team now, you're thinking, actually, this is not looking too bad. Is it? And it's really hard to say how many of the rumours for fullbacks were true. And I don't want to overly talk about them because I just don't think there's definitive proof that we actually bid for any of them. I don't think we do. I'm only talking about people who I'm 100% certain we bid for. 100% certain we bid for Onana, 100% for Breuer, 100% Raphinha, for Phillips, for Darwin Nunes. We bid for those players. Unequivocally, 100%. That's just what it happened. We wanted those guys. The other one was Nunes, not Darwin Nunes. Nunes, the midfielder that went to Wolves for 50 million. Would we have been better with him? I think not, because we didn't get him, we went and got Lucas Paqueta. So I think Paqueta's better. So no, that's a funny one. That's hard to do. I'm just trying to do this as fairly as I can. Now the real interesting one, and the one that will stick in your mind. Stick in your mind because it went on for donkey's years. Well, it seemed to anyway. Was Jesse Lingard. Jesse, I'm coming to West Ham, Lingard. Jesse, chicken run, Lingard. All that sort of stuff. Jesse, show me the money, Lingard. Would West Ham have been better if we'd have got Lingard? Now, the easy thing is to look at what's happened at Lingard since he's gone to Nottingham Forest. Maybe laugh. And then say there's no way West Ham would have been better. But it is interesting. Because I think because Lingard didn't come, that's why we bought Paqueta. Paqueta's your creative midfielder. I thought David Moyes thought he was getting his creative midfielder for free. That's why he went in for Onana. He went to buy Onana, who is... whatever, he can do a bit of everything, can't he? But, you know, he's a big old lump. He can play the holding role. I think Moyes definitely saw Onana as standing next to Declan Rice. Not just standing next to him, playing next to him, funny enough. Or maybe Phillips next to Declan Rice. And he was willing to pay the money for those players. He was never going to buy both. He wouldn't buy Phillips and Onana. But he knew he sort of only had one big one big bit of money for a midfield player, let's say. And the reason he was going to use that is because he thought he was going to get his attacking midfielder for no transfer fee. Not free, you've got to pay their wages, but no transfer fee. And that was it. Lingard comes in for free. So I think you've got to sort of ask yourself the question then, it doesn't become quite as clear cut. Would we have been better with a sort of midfield three of Rice, Phillips and Jesse Lingard than with Rice, Souček and Paqueta? I'll let you answer that one. I just don't think it's massively clear cut on that one. And there's lots of different permutations, but I think bearing in mind we didn't really pay too much for Emerson, so I think that probably would have happened anyway. We would have got the fullback sorted out. If you look at the money, and you look at the money spent, and you look at Darwin, just take one of the strikers. Let's go with Darwin Nunes, Amadou Onana, Jesse Lingard, and Raphinha, all of whom those 3 transfer fees combined. I'll say there's 3 because one of them was on a free transfer. There's 4 players, 3 transfer fees combined. It's less than 200 million, still allowing you to get the goalkeeper and the cheap fullback and all the rest of it. I do think it's fair to say Raphinha on one wing, Bowen on the other, Darwin Nunes up front. Whatever, Onana, Kalvin Phillips, whoever it might be, Declan Rice, Jesse Lingard. I do think that had David Moyes had been fully backed and got all of his signings, then West Ham would be a better team. I love that. It's a great subject. It was great thinking about it. But I would just finish with this. What manager does get all their top targets? I'm guessing nobody. Nobody gets their top targets, right? It doesn't happen. I think with this season, is it not true that City and Liverpool were looking at Jude Bellingham? Jude Bellingham's decided to go to Real Madrid. And that's just one. That's the most recent story I've got. Nobody gets all their targets. Nobody does. And why should it be different for David Moyes? So whilst it's a good game to play, for 13 minutes during a video, that David Moyes would have made West Ham a better team if he'd have got all his transfer targets, I think you could make the same case for every single manager.